Okay, I think I'm on. Oh my gosh. Yay! We have a wonderful crowd here today. Hi, my name is Dr. Amy Greer. I'm the Vice President for Institutional Advancement at Mountain Empire Community College. I'm overcome. This is wonderful. Thank you for being here today. Yay! It is. All right, let me pull myself together. It is my pleasure to welcome you to the 48th Annual John Fox Jr. Literary Festival. I am so incredibly excited for today's event. We are thrilled to welcome two amazing authors today. Our very own Adriana Trigiani, a Big Stone Gap native, of course, and Pulitzer Prize winning award author Barbara Kingsolver. These two women have not only perfected their craft as Appalachian authors, but have forever impacted the world's view of this special place that we call home, bringing attention to our incredible beauty, our unique and defining culture, and also the struggles that we have endured as a people and a place. I think most importantly, they have shown the world that despite those struggles, our people are born with an absolute grit, determination, and resilience that makes our region, Southwest Virginia, the most incredible place on earth. Don't you agree? So, every one of us today should realize the immense gift of this moment, that we are gathered to celebrate the very, very best of who we are. Before this program begins, I would like to extend appreciation to all of those who helped organize this event. First, I want to thank the Mountain Empire Community College Foundation staff and our MECC Foundation Cultural and Humanities Committee, chaired by Ms. Lena Grace, for planning today's program. Thank you all. This is a free event today because of the many, many donors who have supported this college and our cultural and humanities programs. We hope that you will consider supporting our college as well. We're happy to offer this to you. It's our community fundraising and community support that makes this college what it is. I'd like to thank the Lonesome Pine Arts and Crafts Organization and its members for sponsoring our literary contest. Lonesome Pine Arts and Crafts has been an event sponsor since the inception of this festival, and we are grateful to this organization for their continued annual support of the prizes for our contest winners. If you don't know this organization, they oversee the Trail of the Lonesome Pine drama, the official outdoor drama of the state of Virginia. You have to come back to Big Stone to see that if you have not, as well as the John Fox Jr. House and June Tolliver House. I'd like to thank the Origin Project for their support and partnership for this event. The Origin Project has done incredible work in our region, teaching and encouraging our next generation of authors. We are so very thankful for their partnership. We would also like to thank our Fox House ladies. If you've never been to the Fox House and you're going to the lunch today, you'll know what I'm talking about. The John Fox Jr. Home and Museum prepares our wonderful luncheon, and we hope that you will be back to visit at some point. So, special event today. Most of all, I would like to thank and congratulate the individuals who not only won, but submitted entries to our short story and poetry contest. To me, the very act of writing or expressing yourself can evoke fear, right? You're always scared that what somebody might think of you. And to that end, every one of our contest entrants are winners. At the end of the program, we'll recognize our short story and poetry contest winners. And while this is a time to celebrate the achievements of our area students, we should also celebrate the accomplishment of our local teachers who dedicate their lives to providing the instruction and encouragement that our students need to become proficient writers. Congratulations, and thank you to the many teachers who have helped today's winners be successful. It is a great honor to be part of this festival, which for 48 years has highlighted Appalachian writers, artists, who are keeping our culture, our heritage, and our language, our traditions alive. I did a little research, and I believe the John Fox Jr. Festival is the longest running literary festival in the state of Virginia. Now, really, can you believe that? How many of us in the room have heard in our lifetimes, if you're from here, that being here was something to be ashamed of, that we were backward, that we weren't as educated or cultured as our other more metropolitan areas? Folks, our college have been celebrating and promoting literature for 48 years. Of course we're ahead of the curve, right? Again. So you may have seen a recent opinion piece written by Cardinal News editor Dwayne Yancey in response to a reporter about our area, and it was described as, quote, "whatever the hell is west of Roanoke." Have you all heard that? Okay, if you haven't read his response, please find it. It's online, it's wonderful. But my friend and artist Teresa Robinette, an accomplished artist herself, said this about this response, and I want you today to leave our gathering with this thought in mind. Teresa has a wonderful exhibit down at our Wampler Library, Slimp Gallery, so if you have time today, please just short walk down the hill, go and check it out. So here's her quote. "Perhaps it's time to think more seriously about the arts in this area. Our art, music, and our literature is our best weapon against ignorance. It highlights our culture, our presence, our environment, our problems, and our resolve. We are a great part of a great state. It's hard when our problems surface for all the world to examine. But perhaps what needs to be highlighted is how we work together as neighbors, as a community, as descendants of this amazing place to find solutions and to hold on to who we are as a people. Sing louder so that everyone can hear our voice and know who the hell we are," right? Teresa, thank you for that. In her words, if you don't leave here today, and after listening to two of the most amazing voices of our generation singing at the top of your lungs, there's something wrong with you. I thank you for visiting our college and the John Fox Jr. Literary Festival, and I hope you enjoy this special event. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. Ted Booth, our Dean of Arts and Sciences, to introduce Ms. Trigiani. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good morning. As Amy said, our area of Southwest Virginia is known for a lot of things: beautiful mountains, music, hospitality, but among its many gems, one shines particularly bright: our first speaker, Adriana Trigiani. Adriana Trigiani, a native of Big Stone Gap, stands as a proud voice of Southwest Virginia's rich cultural heritage. Her career includes being a New York Times best-selling author, having her works translated into 38 languages. She is also the host of the hit podcast, You Are What You Read, engaging luminaries in discussions about the books that have shaped their lives. Closer to us, she authored and directed the major motion picture adaptation of her beloved novel, Big Stone Gap. Additionally, Adriana's talents have graced television screens with adaptations as Very Valentine, Then Came You, and the award-winning documentary, Queens of the Big Time. Beyond her artistic endeavors, Adriana's commitment to education and community is exemplified through her co-founding of the Origin Project alongside the late Nancy Bolomir Fisher. This in-school writing program has empowered over 2,700 students annually since its inception in 2014, and which I am very proud to say my oldest daughter contributed to. Adriana was honored with a knighthood by President Sergio Mattarella of Italy in 2023, and she currently serves on the New York State Council on the Arts, shaping the cultural landscape of her adopted city of New York, where she resides with her family. Please help me give a warm Southwest Virginia welcome to Miss Adriana Trigiani.
Oh, Ted! Ted! Thank you. Okay, so thank you. So now we know what it's like when you come to my funeral. Okay. First of all, hello. Oh, how are you? Oh. So, I just want to say this. I'm going to say this. Ted married up. Kristen's the greatest. You did very well, Ted, and I hope you're being very nice to her now. All right. Okay. This is so exciting because we got Barbara Kingsolver here, who is really, she's the voice of American literature. And I've said this in many, many places, so I don't mind saying it again. I think she's the best we've got on the planet right now. People will say to me, who's the best? And I say, Barbara Kingsolver. And I've been saying it for years because it's true. I wouldn't steer you wrong. It's disconcerting to see my high school choral director in the front row, Chris Allgaier. And I have known Chris and Paxton so long, I remember when they dated. Remember that, Paxton? We were in the chorus of a town musical, weren't we? Jane, remember those musicals? The Big Stone Gap Music Study Club? Yes, the best. Anyway, that just gives you a little teaser into the artistic flow through our mountains. Whether you're in the garden club, whether you're teaching, whether you're writing, painting, our students here, whether you're nominated for an award or whether you're not, you're part of this community of artists, creatives, we like to call them. Barbara Kingsolver is a novelist, an essayist, and a poet. It's really important today when we're giving away poetry prizes and short story prizes. She is the Pulitzer Prize-winning novelist of Demon Copperhead, which we're going to talk about today, which is a contemporary retelling of David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, set in Appalachia, right here in Lee County, at the onset of the opioid epidemic. In addition to this novel, which is it is an international, worldwide sensation, some of her best-selling works include The Lacuna, The Poisonwood Bible, The Bean Trees, and Animal Vegetable Miracle. For those of you who love children's picture books, you must read Coyote's Wild Home, which she co-wrote with her daughter, Lily, who's a brilliant young woman in her own right. You may not know this, but Barbara is a scientist. She comes from novel writing through science. And if you ask me who the smartest person in the room is, I can point to her. She's about to come out. She was awarded the National Humanities Medal, the highest honor given by the United States government for service through the arts, as well as the Dayton Literary Peace Prize for the entire body of her work. Her books have been translated into more than 30 languages and have been adapted into core literature curriculums in our high schools and colleges here and throughout the nation. She lives with her beautiful family on a farm in southern Appalachia, very close to here. We won't tell you where. She doesn't like drop-ins, okay? I know y'all are used to that, but we don't do that. No, I know you're not used to it. Come but don't. I was raised here. I know. Call ahead, always. Ladies and gentlemen, and our dear students, the great Barbara Kingsolver. You guys give me a hug. Love you. Sit, relax. And I want to check, can everybody hear us? Everybody here in the back, can you hear us well?
Can you hear me?
You can? Can you hear Barbara?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'll grab your mic.
Okay.
Oh, dear.
If you can't hear me, raise your hand.
Put it in the middle. There we go.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, these are so comfortable.
They are. Let's just take a nap.
It's so nice to be home. It's so nice to be home.
Yes.
Barbara, I want to start with this, because you know this better than anybody. We're at Mountain Empire Community College, and a lot of us were kids when this school started. And what it has added to our lives is immeasurable. It was a place my parents came to see old movies. Do you remember that, when they used to have movie nights? Probably, Chris, it was the only social activity in town for you to take Paxton to. My parents took their computer courses here. In the English department, so much of what we do when we go into high schools is we work with them, because our students matriculate to Mountain Empire, and tonight you're going to be at University of Virginia at Wise. That's a good sister school for us. But can you just speak to that, what this means to you, that in Southern Appalachia we have these great institutions?
It means the world. And I can tell you, because I grew up in a little town in Kentucky, Carlisle, Kentucky. I may have been the only person from my high school graduating class to go to college. There might have been one other person who went to nursing school, but that was it. When I went to high school, nobody was telling us about college. Nobody was telling us you need to take the SAT or the ACT, none of those things, because people had no notion that that was a possibility. I was very lucky. I got a scholarship. I just was somehow motivated to find out what else was out there. And so I went to the library and I got college catalogs, which were actually printed in those days.
Right.
And took the Greyhound bus up to Indiana and looked at a college, got a scholarship. And I felt so lucky and so alone in that endeavor, because most of the people I knew, my friends, they saw high school as something to finish if they could, before they got pregnant, before they got married. Many of my friends already had a kid before they were 18. So just the notion of college as being within reach. And I know when I say this, you think, oh, well, she went to high school 100 years ago. It was not 100 years ago. And there are still plenty of kids, plenty of high school kids, I believe, in Appalachia, who don't think college is within reach, whose families are not necessarily pushing because they feel like if my child goes to college, they won't come back. They'll get above their raisins. Who's heard that before? Don't get above your raisins. And that is not raisins that come in the little box. That's your raisings. Okay, what you love and what you don't love when you're growing up in a little town is everybody knows your business. Do they ever? If you're a teenager and if you try to get away with anything, forget about it, because your parents are going to hear about it the next day from somebody that saw you somewhere where you had a flat tire. So that notion of college being this faraway thing that I don't necessarily want my children to go to, because they will get above us, they will look down on us, they will not come back, all those fears, those are alleviated by places like this that are of the community, that belong to the community and are within reach. And I want you all of you who are in high school, I want to tell you that you can go to college. It's a good thing, and you will not be betraying your family or your people. You will be bringing your people with you. So that's what this means to me.
Yes, that's beautifully said, because we don't realize sometimes, if we weren't here at the inception of something, how it changed things. This Mountain Empire Community College changed our town in a beautiful way. And it's not just a place that we gather and we get to do this. It's a place where real learning is taking place. And what is real learning? Well, let's get into this novel, because, you know, I have the great privilege of getting to read a lot of things before they're published. And so I was talking to Andrea on the way down, and I said, when did I first read Demon Copperhead? And she said, you read it the spring before it came out.
I only turned it in the spring before it came
Well,
out.
I got it.
from my
I got an
computer
advanced
to your
reader's-
desk.
well,
yeah. They were fast. They were
They were like
got it out
that,
there quick.
and it was, and they didn't have the cover yet, and it was that kind of thing. But they had a notion of the cover. It didn't until it became this, which I think is so emblematic of where we're from. When I read it the second time, which I've had a delicious read with it because I had time, I never read a book ever in my life where I'm from is so beautifully described. And I'm going to go all the way back to John Fox Jr. when I say that. I just want to read you a little bit so you can hear the language. Okay. Lee career in tech looked like a path to freedom. Definitely. A shot at working in an auto shop, no more to be held prisoner at a desk. Yes, please. But Mr. Armstrong had nailed my destiny to the classrooms. Spanish, geometry, personal finance. Like I would have a need for any of that. I stuck it out for one reason only. My daily hour of Ms. Annie. She was the plus side of being in her art. That was the plus side of being in her art class. Downside, having to share. She was sweet to everybody, it turned out. Walking around the room saying, nice composition, or I like your use of color here. Or at the least, I could see you worked really hard on that, Aiden. I had to do the same assignments as everybody else. Elements of design, linear grid drawing, value shading, life drawing. She had us take turns sitting as the model, but our clothes stayed on. So not like my early art enterprise. This was about proportions and such, tension versus a body at rest. I won't say I didn't learn things. Oil paints, all those pigments, colors with their automotive names, titanium, cadmium, cobalt. For homework, we did the still lifes. Angus helped me think of excellent ones like false teeth in a salad bowl. Let me go back. There's no A in that sentence, and this is why she's a genius. False teeth in salad bowl, just like it is in a museum. Yeah. If I did cartoons now, they had to be on my own clock. All the middle schools fed into Lee High, which meant I was back in school with my own people. A maggot demon reunion, and Emmy, a junior like Angus. But all going our different ways as you do. I was a jock. Maggot mainly hung with the goth girl Martha that cut his hair. Emmy sang in the choir that Miss Annie was director of and ran with the popular end of the arty kids, drama and them. What Angus had to say about the drama girls you can guess. But even still, I was sharing those halls with people that knew me. Some were my wingmen. Some had put ice down my back. One of them still remembered my mom. It felt like I existed. Beautiful. That's what it's like to go to school here. Now, so I said to myself, I said, Barbara, how did you know? So I wrote this down. We read to expand our worlds and to define them. This book defines and expands. What did you learn from Charles Dickens' storytelling style that you didn't know when you started writing the story of Demon in Lee County?
Well, I learned why he was so popular in his time. He was the TV serial writer of his day. They just, hadn't invented television yet 170 years ago, but he was ready for it. The way he wrote novels and published them, which was not unique to Dickens, other Victorian novelists did the same thing. He wrote it in installments, like True Detective or whatever. He would write a 32-page section, it might be like 4 chapters, and release that. And then the next month, the next 4 chapters. And I read this, people lined up at the docks.
They were
waiting for the next installment. At the docks, I guess at Portsmouth, where they would publish these and then put them on a ship and bring them to London. And people could not wait for the next installment. So it was like a TV series.
Were you kind of tempted to do that?
I actually talked to my agent about it.
Go.
So could we do this? And he said maybe on Substack or something, but it ended up, that's kind of like not how publishing works in this era. But I really, by keeping that book, David Copperfield, open on my desk for the 3 years that I spent writing this book, and just laying my novel on top of his, chapter by chapter, I learned his tricks. I learned how one of the ways that they teach you, I've done screenwriting too,
Yep.
we both have. One of the things you learn in screenwriting is start every scene, because in a novel, you write scenes. Did you ever think about that? You're actually in the room, you're reading dialogue, you kind of go in there in your head. So fiction, good fiction is scenic. So you start every scene as close to the end as you can. Think about that. So we don't need to see the person walk into the room. We don't need to see them sit down. They don't need to see, you wait until like the action's happening and we're as close to the exit as possible, and it just compresses everything. So he does a lot of that. He did. He's not alive now, but he does it again every time you open his book, amazingly. So those really compressed, tight scenes and short chapters. That was another thing. The average length of his chapters is about 8 pages, and so I did the same in this book. And I know how you read, right? You'll just read a little bit before you go to sleep, right? So you're in bed, you're reading, you're tired. Okay, how long to the end of the chapter? Oh, just 3 pages. I'm going to finish this, right? See, I've got you. Then you get to like page 7.5 of the 8-page chapter, and something happens, a hook. Something surprising happens, and so then you have to go on to the next chapter. So that is like manipulation.
But
right?
it's dramatic tension.
It's dramatic tension, yeah, and to keep to keep things happening, but also to shape it in these small pieces that seem very accessible.
Yes.
And another thing I noticed, it was like a master class. It was really amazing to write. I've never done that before, and I never will do it again.
But you didn't do it at the beginning of your career? Because when I wrote a play, I did Tennessee Williams the first time. In high school, we had to write a play. So that was the first time you opened a book and
said, I'm gonna write my own interpretation of this. The very
but
first time.
But it's the architecture.
No. Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
The content is wholly.
Well, it's about something complete.
But a boy who's lost, basically.
Yeah, but it's like Dickens. The reason I was attracted to this notion is that I spent 2 years trying to figure out how in the heck do I write what was growing in my mind into the great Appalachian novel. It's what we were talking about from the beginning here. Those people who say, whatever the hell is west of Roanoke. I have lived my whole life hearing that. Not when I was growing up in Kentucky. I thought Kentucky was a perfectly fine place to be from until I went to college and everybody made fun of my accent and everybody laughed at just the way I presented in the world, saying, oh, you're a hillbilly, isn't that cute? Thinking I would laugh too, thinking I would think that was funny. One of my friends, a friend, made this little passport that allowed a Kentuckian to cross the river into Indiana. Indiana, mind you, not like the Taj Mahal. It's Indiana. But this notion that Appalachian people are backward and dumb and bigoted and barefoot and pregnant and all those things was shocking to me. And because I was a young person and because I wanted to be taken seriously, I learned to speak a different language. I changed the way I talked. I listened and I imitated and I erased. I tried to erase, I probably didn't succeed, but I tried to erase everything Appalachian about me so that I could just be a person in the world. And I spent years doing that, and it took me so much of my life to understand the damage that I was doing to myself, to erase my own voice. Your own voice, the person you are, the place you're from, the people who made you, that's what you have to offer the world. As a writer, as a person, whatever you do, your own authenticity is so important. It took me forever to claim that and to understand that the best writing I could do would be Appalachian. So I finally was ready to write this novel that, yes, addresses our problems, kind of with the opioid crisis as the starting point, but back up, give context to that. Show that the problems we have are not because we're dumb, backward people. It's because of our history and what has been done to us.
Right.
So
You're getting there. We're getting there.
This big story I wanted to write was I was thwarted by internalized shame. Some voice in my head just kept saying, nobody wants to read that book, Barbara. Nobody. Nobody wants to read this book about whatever the hell is west of Roanoke. And that stopped me for years. And it was not until I really had this kind of moment with Charles Dickens and realized he was writing about the same things I wanted to write about. Institutionalized poverty, this poverty that gets handed down, class, working class people, what they're up against, orphans, and how people look away from poverty and throw away these kids.
Wasn't it interesting to you that Charles Dickens is English, British? Now we say they're from the UK. But lots of those roots are here. It's almost like as if you took a plant, you just took those roots and just put them in Southwest Virginia Park.
The language.
The language
There's
is so similar.
Yeah, and also just these problems of class and poverty and people underestimating children. All of these problems.
Yes.
The fact that they're still with us, 170 years later, was worth making. I mean, it was a point worth making. So once I had that idea to lay my novel right on top of David Copperfield, and I came up with this kid, Copperhead, because he's got red hair.
I want to talk about the voice.
Yeah,
How did
right.
he spoke to you in a way, and he became then the central character. You could have told this novel a million different ways. Every character's delicious. That you could have had the mother from the beyond telling this story. You could have had there's a million ways to do it, but you chose him, and he's so clear. I was born. I'm there. I'm in that trailer. Go there because folks want to know. He's so richly developed. Kind of the moment he's born, he's got a dilemma.
Yeah.
He's got it.
That's your dramatic tension
That's
right
just
there.
like, boom, you're there,
First of all,
he's got a problem.
I got myself born. That's how it. I'm just going to ask, just for it doesn't matter yes or no, but I just want to ask, who's read this book?
Who's read it?
Oh, a lot of you.
Oh my gosh,
Okay.
I'm so proud.
Okay, and for those of you who haven't, it's still in your future. So I just,
That helps
to
give
some
you a
extent,
thing.
it gives me
Yeah.
a sense of how to talk about it. Well, I'm going to say that's the gift that Dickens gave me on that, in that sort of weird, ethereal conversation that we had. He said, let the child tell his own story. Because that's what I couldn't figure out. Who tells this story? Who has the authority to tell the story? And that's what David Copperfield was Dickens's favorite novel because it was the most autobiographical. It was his story because he led that really hard life. His father went to debtor's prison. He went to work as a child, so he knew child labor. He knew, all these terrible things. And he had a strong emotional connection to that book in particular. And he said, let the child tell his own story. And I thought, that's it, because I think part of what I was worried about is people put up their guard. People from outside of here who already have their ideas about who we are and what we are and so forth will not necessarily believe me. I have to get through a little bit of a trust barrier there, as we always do in fiction. We have to get the reader to relax their guard and believe this thing is true, which is actually not true. It's a lie. It's a big lie. It's fiction, but
story.
But it's a story. Yeah, it's not a lie. It's a story about true things. So, point of view is so important. The child has an automatic advantage of believability. We believe a child. I mean, not if they say, I saw a unicorn on a rainbow. But if they come to you and say, my dad beat me up, you believe it, and your heart goes out. So you get that, little doorway into the heart by having the child tell the story. The authenticity is there. The language is there. The way a child talks tends to be so unguarded and so compelling. And another thing, this didn't dawn on me until I was well into writing the book. A lot of terrible things happened to this poor kid. I mean,
Yes.
one bad thing after another. So I gave you a promise because it's told in the first person. He says, I did this, I did that. This is a promise. Whether or not you're really noticing it, I have promised you this kid's going to be alive at the end. Right? Otherwise, he wouldn't live to tell the tale. So it's a hero's journey, and it's that.
That's so
That's
important.
an extra gift.
That's so important. That
Yeah.
It's a hero's journey. And for critics of the novel, and you know, when people come at me with criticism about it, I'm ready for them. One of the things, I really am. There's a sense of community in this novel that if I close my eyes, I'm home in Big Stone Gap. A sense of, oh, I read the part about the teacher, because Miss Annie, because I can remember at Powell Valley High School, we'd go up the stairs and Miss Jarrett was there. She had to be, I don't know how old she was then. She was the art teacher. But how interesting that the biggest classroom in the middle of the second floor, you remember this, don't you, Sharon, is Miss Jarrett. And she was kind of like, she reminded me of some of your characters in the sense that she's part of the landscape. But there was a community of love there and also of concern and caring and of people trying to ferret out this kid's talent. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, it was in football. We have the coach, and we're all familiar with the sports culture. Mm-hmm. But you married it with the arts culture. You really did that expertly so that people who would pick this up and read it, say, in Saudi Arabia, would go, oh, that's a full-bodied world of people that I didn't know.
And the most important, if I had to boil what I love about my place, Appalachia, down to one thing, it is that we are people made of community. When you sit down with a person for the first time, the conversation is always the same. Who are your people? Who are your people? One way or another, that's the conversation you have until you figure out that, oh, well, my great uncle one time did a piece of work for your great aunt or something. You find out how you're connected, and then you relax, and then you talk about whatever else you were going to talk about. We are made out of our people, and we look after each other for better and for worse. We know each other's business, and that's how we've survived after, 200 years of outsiders doing stuff to us, to our land, to our community.
Yeah, but basically the outsiders come because there was riches here.
Right, to take something. To take something.
To take the coal.
To take the coal, to take the timber, get the tobacco.
But it started out now, people ask you, well, why does that post office look like that? We had all these people come from all over the world when we were working here. Why is that post office so fancy? And why is the museum? Well, museum was a private home.
Yeah.
That was a private home. It's a museum now. It's incredible. You've been there. But like the post office, we were supposed to be the Pittsburgh of the South. So already, and that's what I love about Demon Copperhead, is this idea of what could be.
Yeah.
Or what the intention was.
Yeah.
But it was fine that it didn't become the Pittsburgh of the South. I don't think people here would have really liked that very much. I don't think we needed a big city here, did we? I don't think.
Yeah.
But it didn't prevent, where there are riches and there's natural resources, there's going to be an outside element that comes in to exploit that.
And along with that comes, let's suppress the culture of education so people won't leave, so they'll stay here and they'll just be a labor force.
Well, that's why that's why this was instituted. What year? 71 or 74? 4? 1? I don't remember. 72. Oh, I was right there, Chris. Right in the middle. 1972, Mountain Empire Community College started because Clinch Valley College, as it was called then, where you're going today, was fantastic. But it was a 4-year, and it was residential. It became residential. But we needed this. See, but you got it. It's the community.
So right. So what I wanted to portray in this novel was not just the problems that people have, but all of these networks that save people. So there's Mrs. Peggott, the grandma, the mama next door, who's kind of everybody's mama because she's keeping an eye on all the kids in the neighborhood, and she knows who's not eating well, and she has him come over for dinner. And we all know that mama that takes on, that's like looking out for people. And there's Aunt June, who is in the medical care system. She's doing the same kind of thing, like looking out for who needs what. And even
Communities of faith.
communities of faith, communities of all kinds. And even in his kind of direst straits, when he's in these different foster care situations, like when he's at the place they call the Creaky Farm, where this old farmer just takes on foster boys basically to do free labor on his tobacco farm. So that's a rough situation. It's child labor. I mean, in modern terminology, it would be called child trafficking, human trafficking. But even there, with these other foster boys, these poor kids, one of them's called Swap Out, one of them's Tommy, and fast forward, they're his little band of brothers, and they band together, and they look out for each other, and they look up to the older one who's the football star, even though he's sketchy. But wherever he is, Demon finds his people, his guys who help him. He doesn't survive alone. That's the point. He survives because of other people that are willing to save his bacon.
Well, that's the Appalachian experience.
Exactly.
That's,
exactly.
A lot of people are like, who are, you know what, it's a lot of different things
Yeah.
to be it's a lot of different things.
It's being community. It's also,
we've got backgrounds here that we laugh because it really represents a true multicultural experience.
It does.
It really
and that's
does.
another thing that's misrepresented about us is people think that we're just a monoculture, that we all look the same, we're all the same. We're not.
Crazy.
We come from many backgrounds. We're also, I think, of us as a culture of makers, of really,
Creators.
really resourceful.
Yep.
And that, again, comes from history. When you are prevented from getting what you need, you figure out how to make it, how to grow it yourself, how to make it yourself. You make quilts, you make music, you make babies. All those things, are very much valued
That's right.
by our culture. And
the story, I think part of the reason that I believe you're the greatest we got, and you are, Barbara.
Okay, I want
get
you
to
at my
say that.
funeral.
I get to say it.
Okay.
Because it's true. Part of that is because you pull those threads through time and space and show us what community is, that it has a soul and a pulse and a heartbeat, and that it's eternal. And some people marry that to the ideology of faith, which is great. Some people marry it to medicine, saving lives.
it's just,
Farmers to growing. I mean, you can keep going here.
but all of those things are done in community. Farmers rely on, when I was a kid, tobacco was the basis of the economy where I grew up and also where I live now in Washington County, just 2 counties over, 1 county over from here. They closed school during tobacco setting and tobacco harvest because everybody worked in the fields, and it was like everybody exchanged labor, and so farming is done in community. All of those things.
Hunting. Hunting
is-
season.
is done. Yeah,
Remember
is done
that?
in community.
When fourth
Yeah.
grade, people were 16 in the 4th grade, and they got to go hunt.
Yeah, they did. They did. And the rest of us had to wear.
We know somebody in our class that drove to school in 4th grade, 5th grade. Drove.
Well, yeah, the ones that had been held back.
Because they used to have truant officers.
Well, yeah, the ones that got held back, and they were 21 in the 7th grade.
But held back for why? Held back because that wasn't for them. It's like, I don't know how to say this. Well, no, I do know how to say it.
I can't wait.
Because we get around. They talk about street smarts in our urban areas, like where I live. I would say, I'm in New York, and I go, there's nobody here that has more street smarts than the kids I grew up with in Big Stone Gap.
Yeah.
Or funnier, comedy. When you get to Hollywood and you realize we're the Appalachian kids here. So we're trying to get them jobs out in Hollywood because this is humor. We'll tell you what's funny. You turn on the TV, you go, that's not very funny. But where we're from, heightened sense of humor, survival,
Storytelling. And did
Creativity.
you ever notice another thing that I kind of, you don't really know your home until you leave it and look back on it.
Yeah.
And I had to do that. I had to live in a lot of other places before I realized I'm always homesick. I need to go back to Appalachia. And now I could live anywhere in the world. But I want to live here in Southwest Virginia because I think it's the middle of everything.
And your
It's
kids
the
feel
best
that way
place.
too, like
they
Lily
do
feels that.
too.
They
They
feel
went
that way
away to
too.
college and they have come back. They love it. So, so another thing that I didn't realize when I was growing up is the profound culture of modesty.
That's
How
true.
important it is, and I think that goes along with community. How important it is that you don't aggrandize yourself. Like when people always say, "Oh, when you were little, did you know you were going to be a writer?" No, I never said I'm going to be a writer when I was a child because people would have said, "Well, don't go." Like you always have to be the butt of your own joke. When you tell a story,
Yes.
the moral of the story is, I'm a fool. I messed up. That's always how the stories go. If you tell a story that makes fun of somebody else, that's kind of bad manners. So this thing, it's a double-edged sword. I appreciate modesty and community values and wanting not to get above, where you come from or look down on it or condescend. At the same time, when you go out in the world, you have to promote yourself, no matter
it's
what.
horrible.
And it feels wrong.
Feels icky, feels weird.
It feels so weird.
Yeah.
When I was first forced to do book tours, what did I hear in my head? She's parading herself around.
You know where that comes from. I'm just gonna let's just do this. We have a lot of Scots,
Yeah.
British, Irish, okay? African American, Indigenous American, Portuguese, Italian, Spanish. Now just start thinking about this. And just start thinking about it in the context of the wider world. Do you welcome the immigrant in Southwest Virginia? Do you welcome them? Think about it. I think you do.
We are the
I
other.
think you do. When you go to Scotland, and I want everybody to go there, the modesty thing is huge. And also, I would say in the UK, throughout the UK, but in Scotland, it's particular. And remember that Scotland was the superpower of the planet. I'm speaking then directly tying the thread to Appalachia.
Uh-huh.
They were the superpower. They invented banking. They were
did?
brilliant.
I didn't know that.
And they were not anti-Semitic in Scotland, ever. When you go to Scotland, you see, even in the churches, you find the Star of David. Protestant and Catholic. So that all says Appalachia to me.
Mm-hmm.
And when I got over there and worked over there, I was the only American who could understand the Scottish accent.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was home. David Copperfield. You hadn't made the or maybe you had at that point made the decision it was Demon's Story. But I find this fascinating because even your name, Kingsolver, these names are, it tells you who were the Kingsolvers? Were they people that served the king and solved his problems? What did they do?
You want an answer to that?
I do.
There were people who couldn't spell.
Get out.
It started out, we don't know this for sure, but because we come from very many generations of people who didn't write or read, but occasionally when they had to
Well, that shoots my theory that you inherited this talent.
registered their names because, they were shot in a war or something. We believe it came over from Portugal as Gonçalves, which became Consolver. And then it went from consolver to consolving to kinsolving to kingsolving. All of those names still exist, and we're all related to each other, which is my way of saying we couldn't spell. Even in the same family,
This is
like my
fascinating.
uncle, my great uncle was David Kinsolving, and his brother was Kingsolver, my great papa. So they spelled it any old way they wanted to, but we think it's Portuguese. So the king was an accident.
I knew I knew it.
You did?
No. I didn't know. Portuguese makes sense to me, though, particularly with Stephen and the Italian and the English and the Irish. Oh, my God. And when I look at your daughters, I go, come on. They really look, they look Italian, but Portuguese, I guess.
Yeah, yep. A little bit
Okay,
of
so,
everything.
so into this world where there were no writers in your family, you actually don't start out wanting to be a novelist. Please tell everybody, because I think this is the other way that you are emblematic to the times we live in, is that everybody's doing more than one job now. And everybody's using more than one skill. Raise your hand if that's the case, where you feel like you're doing more than one thing. Well, all the women will raise their hands because they're raising.
Yeah, families.
Yeah, okay. And I mean like that, but I also mean you work at the library, you work on the farm, you do your writing or whatever, or you're a musician. That's really big in this
That's a
area.
common one. Yeah.
Music is, well, this is the birthplace of American music.
Yep, and it's also,
Fundamentally.
I mean, in order to be a farmer, someone in your family has to have an off-farm job.
Right.
So I feel like that's traditionally very Appalachian, is to do a lot of different kinds of work. And now it's the modern thing because of employment challenges that a lot of young people do more than one thing, in the gig economy. But I think that looking at that as a gift rather than a curse, it's a little different from I suppose, the American dream of having one career that you start in and you do for 50 years, and then they give you a gold watch, and then you have big plans to take a cruise, and then you die. Well, what kind of dream is that? I mean, why not? Life has many chapters, and why not do a lot of things? And that's certainly the way I came into it, because as I told you, I was kind of surprised and amazed and gleeful to end up in college. And so it was like, now what? I need to learn everything I can while I'm here. And I loved every class I took. I wanted to major in everything. Like every class I would say, anthropology? That's amazing. I want to know everything about that. Or I want to know everything about computer science. Or I want to know everything about botany. I just loved everything that I learned. And then I realized when this is done, I'll need to make a living. So, because I did want, and I will say this, I grew up around a lot of unhappy women who had no financial independence. Their husbands earned the money, and they were, a lot of them were farm wives, so they did purse strings. And I figured out when I was really pretty young, that is a bad deal. If you don't have financial independence, you don't have power in your relationship. No matter how things start out and who promises what, you don't have power in your relationship if you don't have the capacity to support yourself. So that was a really important value to me in college, is to learn something that I could do for a living, and I studied science. I always read books.
Well, you point to your library always and go, I didn't go to writing school, I went here.
I went there. Yes, I learned to write from reading, and from reading books that I wish I could have written myself. I still love to read books that I wish I could have written myself. I'm still learning. So that was just nutrition for me growing up, was reading books, reading fiction, learning about the world, learning about people. And I love to write. And when I was 8 years old, somebody gave me the little 5-year diary. You know those little diaries that have a little key?
Oh, yeah.
My brother showed me you can open it with a bobby pin. Well, big surprise, there was nothing in there that wouldn't just put you to sleep. It was so boring. I didn't have very much to write in my diary that needed to be locked up at age 8. But I loved the idea of blank pages that I could fill in with, even if it was boring stuff. It was the way I made my experience real to me, and I just kept that up. And so by the time I was in high school, I was writing really bad poems and really bad stories, but they were poems and stories, and I loved writing them. And I just always love to read and love to write. I just didn't think I could do that for a living.
Wow. If I
Sorry
came over
for
to your
my
house
cough.
and I woke you up in the middle of the night, I shook you, I said, Barbara, you are the voice of, what would be the next word?
Sleepiness?
Okay, now you've had a cup of coffee and I come over to your house and I shake you and I say, you are the voice of.
Just me. I don't want to speak for anybody else.
Oh, interesting. I'm glad you said that. Because you don't. You create worlds, we enter them.
Yeah, I mean, I think of
It's not trickery, it's
a
authenticity.
little bit, but
Well, sometimes.
that's
The
just
dramatic tension,
you know,
but
just to make it,
authenticity.
just to make it a good story, readable. But see, I think this is hard-earned knowledge. As I said, I spent many years trying to erase myself before I understood the damage I was doing to myself as a person, as a woman, as a writer, as an artist. The only thing I have to offer the world is this exact spot that I inhabit in the universe. This life I've lived, the wisdom I've gained by making lots of mistakes, lots of scar tissue, things that I tried to throw away and realized I shouldn't throw away, people who did things for me, all of this. That's not to say that I'm writing autobiography. I don't ever write about myself per se, but this place I'm coming from, figuratively and literally, that's all I really have to offer. And it's so important to bear that in mind when you become a writer, because the world wants to pull you all kinds of ways. And when you're beginning as a writer, I've observed that you go to these writing conferences and there are these people there and these agents who say, well, the market is hot for this right now, or people want that. People want to hear this. I feel like that's going to pull me off of this catbird seat where I'm sitting, where I have something true to offer. If I think too much about what people want to hear from me, I'm going to blow it. I'm going to blow the one gift I have. So I try to write with nobody looking over my shoulder.
That's great.
After,
and I would describe what you've just described as the definition of Appalachian. You stay true to your singular voice in a community that needs to hear it.
That's so interesting.
It's a specificity.
It's a specificity. Well, I think, many people have authentic experience to offer. And I think in the literary world, we're coming to value authentic voices, and understand that people should not speak for other people when they don't really know what they've lived through. I think that you and I grew up reading a lot of books that had female characters that were written by men. And that didn't really seem very real to us. And I'm going to tell you that as much as I admire Dickens, when I transposed or translated or whatever you want to call it, when I took his novel and made it my own, I discovered his female characters were very flimsy. They're just cardboard. Agnes, who became my Angus, Agnes is just this, she's just this angel, this angelic person who whenever David Copperfield makes a mistake, she says, well, but you can do better next time. Well, screw that. I mean,
you were looking at it through, you have to look at it through his lens, though.
Yeah.
Women had limited roles in society at that point.
Of course, but
yours are full-bodied.
Yeah, well, I think that women probably had less limited roles than he knew about. I think that he wasn't paying attention.
He wasn't interested.
Like, ask his wife, right? So, well, we can't, but...
He wasn't interested. All right, we got questions for the great Barbara Kingsolver.
I would love to talk with you all about whatever you want to talk about.
If you have a question, raise your hand. I'm only one person, so, I've had my Wheaties this morning, but I'll get to you as fast as I can.
Okay.
Raise your hand and I'll go.
Right over here, we got a question.
And before we start with the questions, as Adriana mentioned, I co-wrote a children's book with my daughter Lily, and she works with children. That's not a question. All right, thank you.
So one of the things that struck me about Demon Copperhead, I work with a lot of kids who've experienced trauma and who have been in and out of the foster care system or who have grown up in really extreme poverty. And Barbara, it was almost like you were sitting in a corner of my therapy office when I was reading some of the descriptions. And I'm just wondering, how did you know these things? Like, what kind of research went into telling this story in such a compassionate way?
Well, thank you. A lot of research. I had to do a lot of pretty specific research about how the foster care system operates. I didn't even know. I was shocked to learn, and I think probably many people would be shocked to learn, that the foster care system is run as a for-profit business. So the children are essentially products. This is so inhumane, but if you think about it, running a hospital as a for-profit business is also questionable, and yet that's how we do things. So I had to speak with people who work for these agencies. And the other thing I had to learn a lot about was addiction, not just how it looks from the outside or what we're told about it, but how it really feels from the inside. So I spent many hours just sitting and listening to people in active addiction or in recovery, hearing their stories. How did it begin? And we'll probably talk more about that later. But with the foster care system, I spoke with people who work in I had an in because my older daughter, Camille, has worked for almost 10 years with the county mental health agency. So she was the mental health counselor to the demons of our community, male and female. She worked specifically with kids, with teenagers, a lot of them who have come, through a lot of trauma in their homes. A lot of them have been in and out of the foster care system. So I'm not saying that. I mean, my daughter really respects HIPAA, and I'm not telling you that she told me individual stories of kids that she's counseled, but she was able to tell me a lot about how the system works and how. So beyond that, though, okay, there's so much you can learn from hearing people's stories. Then ultimately, you have to go back into your own life, your own experience, people you've known. I went to school with, when I created the character of Swap Out, this kid that just, he's probably ADHD. We don't even know what all he is, but he's not very verbal. He's like a monkey. That's how Demon gives him the super identity of wild man, because he's always climbing on stuff. I went to school with a kid like that, and I pictured him in my mind when I was writing him, and he, in fact, in first grade, he was always climbing on the radiators, and the teacher said, Eugene, don't climb on the radiators. One of these days it's going to be hot and you're going to be burned, and sure enough, that happened. And so, I mean, I know these kids. I've lived with them. Where I went to school, it was a small county, one grade school, one high school. You went to school, the kids that you started first grade with, you went to prom with. So, like, if you had a urinary incontinence, like if you were a pants wetter in second grade, that was going to influence your date for the prom. I mean, it's like you knew people so well, and your history.
You wanted to keep those boys alive till 12th grade.
Yeah. So, you know, I've known kids like this. I've known the kids who were singled out for being poor. I myself had. We were. It's weird that even in, like, no matter what your milieu, it's going to divide itself where kids are concerned into the more and less privileged. So I was a country kid. I came to school with mud on I might actually have mud on my shoes right now. Don't look. You know, because we had to walk through mud to get to the bus. So we were the kids that got looked down on, and we got called names. And So, you know, I remember that shame of being an outsider. It was before social media, we had slam books where people secretly wrote their horrible opinion of you and then passed it around. So, you know, I mean, as a writer, you create characters and then you find in yourself the emotional makeup and the psychological makeup of those characters.
Wow. Great answer. Next question, please.
All right, great. I'm going to go over here and I'll be right back to you. Who raised? Right here.
Hello. I feel like I'm meeting two of my heroes, so thank you for being here. I'm so curious, Barbara, when you think about what you just said about how you grew up reading books that were about other places that didn't represent women well, how do you hope that your book is used in high schools and colleges across the region?
How do I hope that this book can be used in high schools and colleges?
In colleges across the region,
Well,
yeah.
I hope that it can be. I hope it will be, despite the very large number of F-bombs in this book. I'm sorry about that. I don't talk the way Demon does, but I know that kids do. And I know that kids, I mean, the language, the drugs, the irreverence, the lust, you know, all of the things that the kids in this book experience are real to kids, and the parents who think they can especially protect their teenagers from all those things, I feel sorry for those parents because they are not at all in touch with the reality of their kids' lives. So I am hopeful that school boards, we're living in an era of book banning, which terrifies me because the books that get banned tend to be the ones that are most real and most valuable for the kids who need them. So I hope, first of all, that teachers and school boards and educators will be open-minded enough to understand that this book is not introducing kids to anything it's not going to make their language worse, or it's not going to make them use drugs. You know, the exposure will validate the experience they're having and I hope, help them navigate that experience with more wisdom, because this book does not say, oh, use drugs and you'll have a good life. It definitely does not say that. This book doesn't say you should be more angry and you should use more vulgar language than you're using now. It doesn't say that either. I think that I've always believed that good fiction can be both a window and a mirror. And I was really thinking about that a lot when I wrote this book, because I wanted it to be a window for people who don't know, who make assumptions about our region, or even people who live here but who make assumptions about people who are have opioid use disorder, who have assumptions about what life is like, or who just don't even know how hard it is to go to a doctor here. I mean, even if you're a person of means, you will wait. My husband just waited 4 months to see an allergist. We don't have enough doctors. In rural areas, we don't have enough. I mean, our hospitals are closing, our post offices are closing. So I wanted it to be a window for people who live in a different America to see that there's another America in their country that needs compassion and needs attention and maybe needs more of their tax dollars to be, redistributed. So I wanted that, but I also wanted it to be a mirror for people, especially young people in this region, to be able to see themselves, to see that their experience is real and important enough to be in a book. When I was growing up, all the books I read were set in faraway places by people that seemed mostly a lot luckier than me. And I didn't imagine, that's part of this, this internalized shame that I grew up to have. I didn't have the sense that my life or my people, I thought that we were so ordinary that our lives couldn't be in a book. There's no such thing as an ordinary person. Every life is its own kernel of amazing experiences. Every life is worth writing about in some way or another. And I think the greatest heroes are unsung. So I wanted this book also to be a mirror for people to see, oh, the life I'm living could be written about in a book, even in a book that, I mean, I didn't really know this would happen, but a book that could be like a bestseller, that like people all over the world would be reading, a book that would win prizes about us, about ordinary us. I wanted both of those things. And I've been very happy to hear, I love hearing from readers, and I hear from them all the ways, you know, from mail and email and through social media and everything. I've heard from a lot of people in cities who said, your book made me think twice about some of the things I say or think about rural people, Appalachian people. I have had some stereotypes that you've asked me to reevaluate. That was a mirror, that was the window. I've also heard from kids who grew up in the foster care system who said, I didn't know anybody knew what it's like. Thank you for telling the world what this is like. Shining a light on some of the things that are really great about us, like the community that we've been discussing and really appraising, but also some of the things that need work that will only improve if the whole country understands, you know, we need infrastructure here. We need, you know, more resources to address addiction. We need, you know, we need more support than we're getting.
Wow. You know, just a little, the thing I love about Barbara, she makes me think about things maybe I wouldn't think about, but I just heard a gentleman describe the economy of our country that was agrarian. And think about this. And when we were producing tobacco, and when our natural resource, coal, and people made their livings here by that, that was the way you attained wealth in America. It is no longer the way you attain wealth in America. And when I say wealth, what I mean is the sustainability of hospitals and infrastructure, right? Now it's technical. And how interesting that our area is embracing that. Appalachian people are resourceful. And I have always said this about the opioid crisis, privately, I'm going to say it today, which the problem started here and it will end here. Because the people will end it. You will end it, will end it. And that's something I think the greater world doesn't quite understand about the brilliance of the people from here, who are here. It is the problem solvers.
And we will solve it with the support that we could use because
of a wider world.
Yeah, of the wider world, because there's all this settlement money from the, you know, against the lawsuits against the Sacklers. All this settlement money, it is not coming here. We need people to understand and have more compassion for the disease of addiction. We've all been brainwashed. I mean, who here had a DARE officer that taught them, oh, here, I'm going to teach about drugs. Bad people use drugs. You need to put them in jail. Just say no. It's just like bad people do that. Well, I spent a lot of time learning people's stories of how they came into this disease.
And tell how you did, because I love this. Dr. Art Van Zee.
Well, actually, yeah, I met Dr. Art Van Zee, who
with the Origin Project.
Yeah, it was a thing.
Barbara comes to everything. This is why I'm so happy to see this room packed. You deserve it. You come to everything we ever did. You and Stephen were there, and I would always go, Barbara's here. You know,
of course.
Yeah, but a lot of people go, now I'd rather stay home and watch Dynasty, you know.
Anyway.
I ain't going.
Yes, it was at that thing that you organized, that I met Dr. Van Zee, and I told him I was writing a book about this. And he said, well, then you need to spend time with a lot of people who are in, who have opioid use disorder. And I said, you're right. And he sent an email to his patients, because he, if you don't know who he is, that's okay, I'll tell you. He practices in Lee County. He was one of the first whistleblowers. He was one of the first doctors who noticed that this drug, OxyContin, which he had been assured was safe because the company provided fake information about that, falsified studies showing this was not addictive at all. So he's prescribing this medicine that's supposed to be the answer to prayers as a painkiller, and he's seeing patients getting addicted after just one bottle of pills. And they don't even, a lot of these people don't even know they're addicted. They just come back and they say, I feel really bad if I'm not taking my pills. I feel so sick, I can't get out of bed if I'm not taking my pills, so I need more pills. So he recognized, and he tried for years, actually, to get the right people to listen, which finally it worked its way up to the DEA and to these lawsuits, and the world found out that the Sackler family, that Purdue Pharma was marketing poison, and that they had very deliberately chosen our area as a target because they saw we were vulnerable and that they could make a fortune marketing OxyContin in this region. So that's how it all started. So he sent an email to his patients, because most of his practice now is treating people in recovery. Recovery from addiction, opioid addiction. And so he sent an email to his patients saying, there's this woman that wants to write about this, and she won't write about you, she just would like to hear your story. And I was so touched that people came forward, and they were so glad to talk to me, even about the most painful and humiliating things, because nobody would listen. It's just like people write you off as a bad person if this has happened to you. Well, most of the people I talked with, they weren't chasing a high. They weren't trying to have fun. They had a work injury. They got a bottle of pills and instructions: take these pills on the clock, stay ahead of the pain. This is what you're supposed to do. Don't miss a pill. And by the time that bottle was empty, they were already addicted. And when you're addicted, it changes your brain, and it changes your whole being, so that you genuinely believe you're going to die until you get that next pill. So it forces you to do really awful things, and it tears up families, it tears up communities, but it's a disease, and that, in every case began, with a legal prescription. So this is
But you came at it in a very Appalachian way, which was a sports
to
injury.
listen. Yeah. A sports injury. A lot of
kids. If you can
kids.
speak to that, because that was like, I was like, ding, 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 when I read it, because I went, of course, because of our sports machine.
Right, the football, the Friday Night Lights. But I just want to sort of finish this little piece of saying, this is a disease, my friends. We have been brainwashed to think that it's bad people who do this, but this is mothers and fathers and grandfathers and children and, teenagers who get this disease, and it will only be cured but with medicine and compassion. So we need to think of it like cancer. Like, if your daughter had cancer, you wouldn't say, I'm throwing you out of the house. When you hit bottom, maybe we'll give you chemo. But that's how people treat addiction.
So true.
And that is disgraceful. But it requires re-educating ourselves, because we've all been kind of brainwashed to think, send them to prison, that's where they belong. So I will just say one more thing about that, which is that any one of you who have purchased this book are helping, because this book, that book, well, it sold a lot. Demon brought home a lot of bacon. And I am so fortunate that I don't need a lot to live on. So a lot of the profits of that book, we are putting into Lee County, constructing a new women's recovery facility, especially focusing on...
Now, and Dr. Art Van Zee's helping you, right?
Right, yes,
Because-
we're working together. And
you
we're
remember-
focusing,
yeah.
we're focusing, especially giving priority to women who are working on recovery in order to be reunited, reconnected with their children, because that's what Demon needed.
Fantastic, because we remember New Beginnings. Does everybody remember New Beginnings? Which was a very effective in treatment, residential in treatment in Lee County. And Dr. Art Van Zee was a huge part of that. We did fundraisers here for it.
Yeah.
But you have to have the laws behind that, and the judges have to agree. Oh, we don't just lock these people away, our brothers and sisters away. We get them in residential treatment, and we wean them off of this. And as you wean, you find your purpose again.
Right, and it takes, like you've lost years of your life, so
Yeah.
you need years in recovery. You need help reconnecting with your family, reconnecting with transportation, reconnecting with employment skills. So compassion and medicine are the beginning of treatment, and then after that is community support. So
So let us
that's what
know
we're hoping to do.
how we can be a service, Barbara.
Will do.
Because that is
Will do.
incredible.
Will do.
That's the most exciting news I've heard. Okay,
Time for one more question.
one more question, and then we're going to give some prizes away. Well, we could do two. How about over here? Oh, no, over here? Okay, go ahead, dear. Ann Radley.
Yes.
I don't have a question per se as much as an expression of gratitude to you for this book, and I'm probably going to get a little emotional, but I grew up here and left when I was 18, couldn't wait to get away. I had a very, very strong mother who encouraged me to get away, and I did. And I went through, our lives paralleled our young lives very much. I went to a college in Fredericksburg where there were a lot of elite and a lot of people with money, and I was shamed. And I remember one of my friend's fathers, who was from New York, asking me the first time we met if I wore shoes
Yeah.
before
No, I've heard that
before I
one.
came to college. And of course, I would laugh it off because that's sort of how I dealt with it. But coming
It hurts.
forward,
It hurts.
I've had a great career, and I worked actually in addictions for a while. So I had trouble. I live in the Richmond area, and I have a book club in my neighborhood, and we picked this book to read, and I was dreading it, to be honest, because I still have some of that internal shame. So today, listening to you, and you've connected a lot of dots for me. My father just passed away in January, and he was almost 95, and was so proud to be from this area. He worked in the coal business, and his father, and on and on. And over the years, I've learned to appreciate, and I love coming back here now. But this book club I dreaded, actually, because I wasn't sure how, because I was the only one, of course, that knew this area and growing
You're
up here.
the only one from whatever the hell's west of
Yeah.
Richmond.
But as
I'm
much
never
as
gonna forget that.
and getting and reading the book, and I could identify with so much of it. And so I'm in this book club, and I'm kind of dreading, this meeting. These women were wonderful. In fact, in some ways, they were able to see this book. Much of what you said today, when I couldn't, because I still had a lot of these barriers.
The blinders and yeah. It's
Thank you, anyway, for that.
well, you're welcome.
I may
And-
have time for one more
Yeah,
question.
one more question.
Okay. Well, and I apologize, I'm going to give it
You
to
get
Steve.
that
Yeah,
straight
it's
here.
something that was
Our
awfully
students are like
important
over here.
to me to speak to your book club.
Here we go.
I'll get to you. Let me just say one quick thing.
Yeah.
It was really important for me to put these problems in a context, to talk about, why does this happen? How did this happen to us? How did Appalachia come to be the way it is? I was writing and I won't name names, but there was when I asked people before this, what book have you, from outside the region, what book have you read about Appalachia? They always named one book, which was very popular nationwide, written by a memoir by a guy who went to Yale, and then he ran for Senate, and I won't, name any names. But But people love that book. I mean, people outside of here love that book because it validated what they believe, which is what he said, which was, well, my family's just a bunch of lazy louts, but I pulled myself up and I got out of there. He wasn't even really from there. But, that thing of blaming the victim is so hard to address. And this is what you were feeling like, yes, you've heard it so many times. We're just lazy. We just don't have ambition. To get past that and show how hardworking, even Demon says, like in the worst days of his addiction, he says, you have no idea how hard it is to be an addicted person, how hard you have to work just to get up in the morning, find your means, find the money, find your connect, get through the day alive. It's just like people in bad places still work hard. So thank you for having that book club, and I just want to reiterate how important it is to think of our problems in the context and not to fall into that trap of blaming the victim, whether it's ourselves or someone else. All right, last question.
I had not read your book, but
That's okay.
From what I've heard, you have very good characters. People have praised you for how well you write them. Do you have any tips on how you write your characters?
How to create characters.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I don't write about people in real life. I don't ever write about myself. People always say, oh, do you base this on your friends or your family? Well, no, because first, I want them to stay my friends and family. But even from an artistic point of view, I begin with meaning. I think about what I want to say with a book in the bigger sense, not just who the people are or the plot, but what do I want this book to be in the world? And in this case, I wanted it to be, as I said, a window into Appalachia and a mirror for Appalachian readers. So how do I do that? So then, with every book, that's my starting point. And then I invent a plot that will sort of ask the right questions that will lead a reader into this place where they will examine that meaning, and there's not a message in there because the book is going to be different for every reader. The same book will be a different experience for every reader, kind of depending on what you already know, what you care about, what you're curious about. So, but I just sort of create this plot that will bring you into the place and have, sort of let you experience the problems or the solutions, whatever. So, okay, once I have that plot constructed, then it's like casting a movie. I ask, okay, who do I need? Who will do these things? Who will put the baby in the car? Who will take the baby and drive, whatever. Who will take his family on a mission trip to Africa? I have the actions, and then I have to invent people who will do the actions. Well, there's why I can't use my friends and family. Nobody I know would be that cooperative. My characters I am the boss of them, right? The total boss of them. They have to do exactly what I say. So I have to make a person from scratch who would be the kind of person who would do that thing. So I begin with behavior and back up to personality. And so I spend a lot of time with each character thinking and even writing down pages and pages of who is this person? Why would they want to do this? What was their mother like? What was their favorite song? What do they like to eat? Just really a lot of details that won't go in the book, but that makes the person real to me. And, I think about my own experience, the experience of people I've known. I just think about psychology a lot, human psychology, and mold a person. And then inevitably, I will get to a place in the novel where they don't want to cooperate. They don't want to do what I say. Well, then you got to back up and put some kind of fire behind them that makes them do that thing. Because anybody can be made to do almost, I would tell you, I wouldn't jump out of a second-story window until you light a fire behind me. Then I would. So you kind of have to do that too. Wow. psychologically speaking, you back up and put something in their lives that makes them the kind of person who would do that. So it's just a lot of psychology. So was that the last question? Is it time for us to wind up here?
We got one more.
Do we have one?
Rebecca Pepin.
Oh,
Just a super quick question.
Okay.
You said something so touching and in-depth. A lot of kids are watching TikTok, they're watching YouTube. They want to be what they see on there. You said something so meaningful today about the mistakes you made, what you wish you knew, what you wish you learned. What would you like to tell young people today about the authenticity? Don't be ashamed.
the BU message is that I'm going to tell you, all those lives, all those people that look like they're having a better time than you, they're not. I promise you, they're not. Think about what you put on social media. Is that really all of your life? Do you put the embarrassing, cringy stuff? Maybe you do. I mean, there are those. But, it's like, I thought, when I look back in high school, I thought, oh, those people are having such a good time, and I'm so miserable. Well, guess what? They were miserable too. They just could fake it better. Nobody's really looking at you as much as you are. That's the other thing.
Yeah,
Nobody's judging you as hard as you are. So if you find that watching your friends on social media is making you an unhappy person, they're not really your friends. That is not a healthy place for you to be. And I know it's hard, but cultivating self-respect, cultivating the value of your own life is so important. It also takes time. And I think that being an adolescent is just really hard. I'll tell you something else. You might have heard that these are the best years of your life. They are totally not. They are not. It gets better. I am in my 60s. I love being in my 60s. When I look back, each decade of my life has been better than the one before because I learned things about myself that helped me take a better path for me because of people, because of the family and communities that I cultivated, because I learned to not to overvalue judgments of me, but to think more about what I want to put into the world. It just gets better. So I will leave you with that, and I'll leave you with one other thing. All of you are readers. I know that because you're here. You're reading fiction. You might be reading it because you have to. You might be reading it because you want to, or some combination. Or you are a teacher who is cultivating the love of literature, or at least the reading of literature in class. I want to tell you thank you for doing that, because sometimes we think, oh, we need to be learning facts, or we need to be doing math, or we need to be reading the news, or this or that. And so is reading fiction really so important? Yes, it is, and here's why. Fiction has a magical power. When you pick up a novel, you're putting yourself away. You're laying yourself down on the bedside table and going into somebody else's life and seeing the world through their eyes and like feelings of that other people have experienced because of challenges that they have. This person that whose brain you've entered is probably someone very different from you, maybe a different gender, maybe a different ethnicity, maybe they live in a different place. You have erased that boundary between you and another person that you might have been taught to be afraid of or to resent or whatever, just like not trust or whatever, or just not know. You are knowing another. So when you come back to yourself, you've expanded your capacity for empathy. You've come back as a larger person on the inside. You have more compassion for people who are suffering different things from you. That is the magic that can save our world. So thank you.
Wow. Perfection. Beautiful, Barbara. Beautiful. Beautiful. Perfect. Beautiful. Oh. All right. I too rise. Thank you. To cry. That was beautiful. Amazing. Thank you, everybody.
All right, our authors, if you wouldn't mind, we're going to announce our winners of our poetry.
We'd love it. We'll stay right here.
And
Yeah.
short story. And I would love for them to be able to shake your hand as well. There's Barbara. There's a very nice lady that offered a cough drop. Thank you for the cough drop. Sorry.
I'm not contagious.
That's Appalachian. Somebody got a cough
That
drop.
so is.
Everybody's got a
And
cough
shares
drop
it.
in their
Yeah.
purse. So if you are sitting in our audience today and you're 16 or 65, I hope you've heard that you need to be authentic and you need to write about the people that you know and love and understand. It's so important. So please feel the confidence to do that when you leave here today, because these women are the real deal, and so are you. So thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to introduce my colleague, Tyler Hughes. Tyler is an adjunct professor here at Mountain Empire Community College. He's also the director of the Crooked Road Heritage Trail. And he's also a member of our MECC Foundation Cultural and Humanities Committee. Tyler is going to announce the winners of this 37th annual Lonesome Pine Short Story Contest. So winners, if you're here today, and I hope we have some, just come up on the stage, if you will, at this entrance, and we'll get you a certificate and you can meet the authors.
All right, well, thank you, Amy. It's an honor to be here with all of you all, and especially with our special guests today. And I just want to say the John Fox Jr. Literary Festival is just one example of the major investment that Mountain Empire Community College continues to make in community art here in Southwest Virginia. And so especially want to welcome you to campus and welcome our students who are here and encourage you that if you're looking for a pathway to higher education with a focus on the arts, whether that be music or literature or music, that Mountain Empire is a great place to start. So we really encourage you to join us here on campus. And now it is my pleasure to announce the winners of the 37th Annual Lonesome Pine Short Story Contest. In the middle school category for short story, our third place winner is Aiden Uden, a student at Shirley C. Heim Middle School in Stafford, Virginia, for her story titled Saving Tharsis. And we'll mention we have winners from across the state, so several folks could not be here today.
Stafford's actually 6.5 hours away from
Right.
Oh, my God.
Yes. Our second place winner is Claire Young, a student at Shirley C. Heim Middle School in Stafford, Virginia, for her story titled A Necklace of Legacy. And our first place winner is Quinn V. Vu, a student at Shirley C. Heim Middle School in Stafford, Virginia, for her story titled Tomorrow is Another Day.
She's in the Origin Project.
In the high school category for short story, the third place winner is Sophie Jones, a student at John I. Burton High School in Norton, Virginia, for her story Reflection.
She's in the Origin Project.
Yay!
Fabulous, Sophie. I'm going to get her to meet you, Barbara. Here. Come over and meet Barbara. Let me give you the hug. There you go. Thank you, sweetie. Wow, that's fantastic.
So proud of you.
Oh my gosh, that's
Good
so
job.
great. John I. Burton.
In the high school category for short story contest, second place goes to Emma Eisenhower, a student at Central High School in Wise, Virginia, for her story, Slay the Monsters.
You hear?
And the first place winner in the high school category for short story is Sienna Brooks, a student at John I. Burton High School in Norton, Virginia, for her story,
All right.
her story is titled Staring Problems, Stupid Kisses, and Summer Mornings. Congratulations.
Good job. Proud of you.
Congratulations, sweetheart. Congratulations. That's so great. That's fantastic.
And now for the adult category of the short story contest. Our third place winner in the adult category is Sarah Mullins Spears of Prospect, Virginia, for her story, The Importance of Keeping a Schedule. Our second place winner in the adult category is Ross Stanley of Norton, Virginia, for his story, The Idiot Box.
Fantastic. All right. It's like commencement.
It is. You have to shake the hand.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. And our first place winner in the adult category for short story is Jillian Skidmore of Jonesville, Virginia, for her story, Murdering Mr. Shoemaker.
All right. Congratulations. Oh my gosh. Jonesville, Lee County. Got to get up to Lee County. Barbara King.
Congratulations.
I did this with my students at Lee High School.
Oh.
That was part of the deal here.
Oh, great.
Thank you. Thank you. Lee High.
Go Lee High.
Go Lee High.
Congratulations to all of our winners in the short story contest. I will hand things over to Dr. Greer, who will now announce the winners of the poetry contest.
Okay.
That's Demon Copperhead effect right there.
All right, for our middle school category in our poetry contest this year, our third place winner in the middle school category is Lillian Cole, a student at Union Middle School. Lillian is recognized for her work titled If.
Now that's Origin Project.
Good job. Well done.
All right.
We should just stand up. We should just stay.
Wants to stay right here?
We
Our
should just stay
second place winner in the middle school category is also from Union Middle School, Miss Berkeley Price. Berkeley is being recognized for her poem titled Time.
So proud of you. Good job.
Okay, and our first place winner in the middle school category is Katie McKelvin of Shirley C. Heim Middle School. Katie is being recognized for her work titled Haunted Love. Katie's also 6.5 hours away, so I'm sure that's why she's not here today. In our high school category for the poetry contest, our third place winner is Leah Gunn of Virginia High School in Bristol, Tennessee. Oh, no, Virginia. Yay!
Students say all sat in the back. I
So-
mean, it's so typical. That would have been me. I've been
Leah is being recognized for her work, quote, "When I die in a school shooting." That sounded dark. It's a real thing. Our second place winner in the high school category is Kiara, I hope I said that right, Hamilton, a homeschool student in Wise, Virginia.
Homeschool.
Yeah. Yay!
Young woman of color. Good.
Sit.
Beautiful.
Sit. Kiara or Kiara? Which one? Kiara. Okay. Kiara is recognized for her work. This is what 15 feels like. And our first place winner in the high school category is Layla Hamilton, a homeschool student in Wise, Virginia. Layla is recognized for her work titled The Breakfast Table, almost 18. Congratulations.
Congratulations. This is huge.
All right, for our adult category, our third place winner is Leslie Champ of Wise, Virginia, for her work, "I Must Shake the Fog from My Rain Jacket." Oh, it's a he. I'm sorry.
That's quite okay.
I'm sorry.
We were stunned. But we're thrilled for you.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Our second place winner in the adult category is Crystal Hurd of Bristol, Virginia. So Crystal is being she's being awarded for her piece titled "Nostalgia."
So exciting. Thank you.
And I'm just about to guess that we're going to get another round of applause for Chrissy Anderson Peters, our first place winner from Bristol, Tennessee, for her work, "Tendrils of the Heart."
All right. Crystal. Nice.
Congratulations.
Come on over.
Come on over.
Congratulations.
Oh, wonderful. You went to Indiana? Fantastic.
And I know you signed us out.
Yes.
We're having a moment. I'm sorry.
Both love it. How fantastic. Congratulations. Oh, we're thrilled for you. Yeah.
Thank you all. All right, let's give another round of applause for all of our short story and poetry winners. So I'm going to ask our winners, if they would, when we leave today, if you would gather outside of the fireplace here in the Slimp Commons area when you leave the door. We'll get a picture of everyone together, okay? All right, so I have just a couple of announcements before we finish. If you're going to the Fox House Luncheon, we'll meet you there, okay? I've been told to tell you, and this is no joke, so please forgive me for the stereotype, but they have a one-seater. So when I say that, I mean, a one-seater outhouse. It's not an outhouse, but they have one toilet. They're asking if you would maybe, go here at the college. That was a very embarrassing thing to say, but I had to say it some way, right? And you're in for a treat. They're waiting for you. It will be just a little bit. I know Barbara cannot sign. She cannot sign today. She has a hand issue. But I'm sure our authors will be ready to greet you afterward. And then, last but not least, we have an Origin Project cookbook for sale in the back for $20. That cookbook, and Adria can tell us more about it, it's a collection of both her recipes, your family's recipes, but also recipes
No,
from
everybody.
the area, right?
Got a casserole
So-
in there.
Yes, a casserole or two. Please check that out. Please do. And
And please don't leave without the Origin Project anthologies. We have a variety. Everybody, please take one. We want you to have it. See what our kids have written. You got yours. Good. Good.
if you have enjoyed our program today, I ask that you consider making a donation to the Mountain Empire Community College Foundation Cultural and Humanities Fund, which provides this programming along with our Mountain Music School. If you're not familiar with that, 1 week, last week in July, awesome program, as well as our Home Craft Days Festival, which is the third weekend in October, the best festival for Appalachian crafts that you will find in our area. So for more information, go to our college website, the Home Craft Days website, Mountain Music School website, and thanks for coming, y'all. Have a wonderful rest of the afternoon.
Beautiful.